Hello and welcome to the video. In this video, we're going to be going over some of my predictions for the 2024 Giants Live Strongman Classic. This is the biggest show since World's Strongest Man about 2 months ago, and it features some pretty similar events and a lot of the same athletes that made it to that World's Strongest Man final. So let's just go ahead and get right into it, starting off with the athletes competing here just in reverse alphabetical order. We have Tristan Hoth, who got fifth place at World's Strongest Man just 2 months ago. We have Tom Stoltman, the current World's Strongest Man. We have Pablo Cordiaca, who placed eighth at World's Strongest Man as well. He made it to the final. We have Pa O'Dwyer, who was one of the competitors in the heats of World's Strongest Man. Alexei Novikov, the 2020 World's Strongest Man, who is coming back from some sort of injury, I believe, in his bicep. We have Mitchell Hooper, who placed second place at World's Strongest Man and won the Arnold Strongman Classic earlier this year. We have Matthew Ragg, who had a really great performance at World's Strongest Man, scoring fourth place. We have Kane Francis, another guy who did pretty good in the heats of World's Strongest Man. Gavin Bilton, who is a very frequent athlete here at Giants Live shows. Evan Singleton, who's a frequent podium finisher at Giants Live shows and also got podium at World's Strongest Man this year with a third place. We have Eddie Williams, who had one of the most surprising performances in the heats of World's Strongest Man this year, actually. Just narrowly missing out on the final there. And we have Chick Senel, or also known as Iron Bibi, who is the current world record holder for the axle press, which is actually an event that we're going to have here in this competition, and the log press. And he's also just a generally very good strongman all around. So to get into the events, the first event is going to be the max axle press. Pretty self-explanatory. They had this event at World's Strongest Man as well. We have the deadlift for reps. I'm assuming it's the typical setup on the axle bar. It's probably going to be either 350 or 360 kilograms for reps. We have the Conan's Wheel, another event that was at World's Strongest Man, where they're basically gonna have to go around in a circle carrying, whether it be 200 or 250 kilos, something like that. Basically just moving around in a circle until they can't move anymore. We have the wrecking ball hold, which is gonna test the athlete's grip endurance, and we have the Atlas stones, which are basically in every show, pretty self-explanatory. So let's go ahead and start with the axle press. Let me go ahead and reveal here our points and then sort it out by who places best. All right, so starting off from the bottom, I do have Eddie Williams and Kane Francis here with 0 points. This is assuming that the axle kind of starts somewhere around 170 or 175 kilos. I don't think either of them have ever had any kind of performance like that I can see. Um, and although I just kind of gave Eddie some praise on having a really good performance at World's Strongest Man, it didn't seem that his pressing kind of was as improved as everything else. So just kind of predicting 0 points there for both of them. But honestly, they could surprise and easily score maybe that first weight. I would doubt if they get the second weight just because they're not really known to be great pressers. But yeah, that's just what we have there. Then we have another four-way tie here between Bilton, Rag, O'Dwyer, and Hoth. This is sort of assuming that all of these guys are able to hit that first weight. I'm kind of assuming that the weight jumps are going to be somewhere between 170 and 175, and then they would jump to somewhere around like 185 and 190. Rag traditionally is a great presser, but Axel, he's recently had some problems due to some sort of a bicep twinge or something like that. Built he's pretty good overhead, but on max events he tends to underperform. So I'm just giving him here the first weight. Um, Sort of similar with Pa. He's pretty decent at Axel. He has hit the opening weight at the Strongman Classic before, so I think he's going to be able to do it again. And Hoth, I'd say that he's in a similar category to these other guys. He did pretty good at the World's Strongest Man Axel press, so I do think he'll get that first weight, but more than that, I would be unsure of. So then the next lineup of guys here, we have a three-way tie here, scoring 8 points. We have Evan Novikov and Pablo Cordiaca here. I'm guessing that these guys will be able to hit that second weight of around 190 kilos. Pablo might be able to go a little bit higher than that. But I do think that they'll end up scoring somewhere in this range. This is all, of course, going off of the previous weights that were used in the Strongman Classic. I believe it was something like 175 kilos, jumping to 190, jumping to 205. So Pablo has hit 200 kilograms. Whether he can hit 205 is a maybe. He maybe could, but just playing it a little bit conservative here with the predictions. Um, Basically just going to have these guys tying here with 8 points. Then I do have Tom Stoltman here, singled out here with 10 points. I think he'll be able to get that third weight. I think in 2021 when they had the actual press previously at the Strongman Classic, he was able to hit 205 kilograms on it, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, he was able to do pretty good on that event. So I think he's going to do great at it again here too. Not to mention his performance at World's Strongest Man. He actually won the event, tied with Hooper at World's Strongest Man. So he's definitely going to be placing in the top three, at least. That's what you would expect. So then I have tied in one and two here with 11.5 points, Hooper and Iron Bibby. Um, I do think that they are going to be able to hit the world record. Hooper was able to clean the world record in World's Strongest Man while already being fatigued. And he also had a pretty bad hand injury, which would definitely hurt him on the clean, but he was still able to do it. He wasn't able to press it, but I do think he definitely has the pressing power, especially when you consider this is going to be the first event in the competition. He's going to come out there extremely fresh, and he's really going to want to do good on this event. So I do think he's going to be able to hit that record. Sort of same goes for Bibby. He was able to do the 217 kilogram press last time he was at the Royal Albert Hall at the Strongman Classic. So I do think if they sort of just nudge it by 1 kilogram, he'll be able to do that too. So I think they're gonna tie at that world record weight, which might be 218 kilograms. And whether they can go higher than that, I'm not sure, but I do think that it's pretty safe to say that these two guys are going to be the two to look out for on this event. So moving on to the deadlift now. Um, shouldn't be too many surprising results here. Deadlift is pretty easy to predict most of the time. So starting off from the bottom, we have Pavlo here with 1 point. He's sort of the standout guy here when it comes to not doing so good on deadlift. I think everybody else here is going to be well capable of beating him out there. Next I have Kane. Honestly, I don't know too much about Kane's deadlift. I do think he has a decent deadlift. He pulled 400 kilograms for 2 reps, I think, at Britain's Strongest Man. So he's not a bad deadlifter by any means, but I do think he's going to be placing sort of towards the lower end of the table when you just consider some of the top guys. Tied here with a three-way tie for 4 points, we have Eddie Williams, Bilton, and O'Dwyer. I'm sort of expecting them to hit somewhere around the 5 rep mark on this deadlift. Then another three-way tie here between Hoth, Singleton, and Iron Bibby. I think they will be able to hit somewhere around 6 reps um, on this setup. Iron Bibby's deadlift has been improving. Same goes for Evan. And then Hoth, um, traditionally he wasn't really thought of as a big deadlifter, but he actually was able to match Tom at World's Strongest Man, which is no easy feat. So he's definitely going to be one to look out for to see if he can replicate that result here. Um, then we start moving into some of the big deadlifters here. We have Novikov, Stoltman, and Hooper with a three-way tie here with 10 points. I think they'll be able to hit somewhere in the range of 7 reps. Um, and then beating them all, I have Rag. He beat Hooper and Tom at World's Strongest Man on the deadlift for reps. He also beat Hooper and Tom on the deadlift for reps at the World Tour Finals, Giants Live last year, I believe. And then I also think Novikov is just going to be in the same sort of region as Hooper and Tom there. So I think Rag should be the one to win this. Um, but I would never count out any of these three guys here with 10 points. But I do think the top four is very likely to be Rag, Hooper, Stoltman, and Novikov in whatever order it may be. So moving on to the Conan's wheel now. Let's see. Starting from the bottom again, we have Iron Bibby with 1 point. Endurance events, I don't really think suit Iron Bibby. He's not really a slow guy, he can definitely move, but when it comes to endurance, I don't think it really favors him. Um, Eddie Williams, I wouldn't say he has bad endurance, but he just didn't have a very good performance on the Conan's wheel last time he did it at a Giants live event, so I have him placing low here too. For Bilton, kind of same thing goes for him as for Bibby. Francis, um, he does have some pretty good experience on Conan's wheel actually, since he does a lot of SCL shows, so he might be placing a bit higher than I have him predicted here, but just had to place him somewhere. So he kind of ended up here with 4 points. Evan, he is a pretty fast athlete and he has decent endurance, but for whatever reason, the Conan's wheel just does not. He doesn't really seem to enjoy this event. So I have him here with 5 points, beaten out by Hoth. Hoth did beat him out at World's Strongest Man as well, so I think that's a pretty decent prediction. I also think Tom beat Hoth at World's Strongest Man, so just kind of following that logic, I have Tom over Hoth here. Pa used to hold the world record on this event, so definitely one to look out for on this event here. But I do think that there are just a couple other guys that are able to beat him out here. Um, Something to note, actually, this event, this competition, I mean, has some very similar athletes and also some very similar events to the World Tour Finals. I might be mentioning that competition a couple more times in this video, but you can kind of extrapolate some of the performances at the World Tour Finals and just bring them over here to this competition. That's kind of how I made some of these predictions happen. Um, Obviously, you can't really just copy and paste numbers since athletes can turn up in different kinds of shape and there's many other factors, but it's a pretty good indicator and I just thought it was interesting that those two competitions were extremely similar. Um, so anyways, moving on to Novikov, I think he has won this event before or gotten like second place or something like that at either World's Strongest Man or another Giants Live. So he's definitely one to look out. So he's definitely one to look out for here. Um, but I do think that these top three guys are going to be able to beat him, um, for different reasons, right? So I have Hooper beating him out here. I think Hooper actually might be better than him at this kind of event. He has beaten him at sort of front carry events before, and it could just come down to who goes out first, right? So if they tie on the deadlift, then it could honestly be at the discretion of the guys running the show who goes out first. It might be Hooper that goes out last, which would be an advantage because he would have more points at that time. Uh, but I've seen it go either way at Giants live shows, so who knows? So these two guys can honestly flip places based on who goes out first. But I think Hooper, I would give him the edge on that just because I think he's a little bit better at this kind of event. Then I have Rag beating Hooper here, which maybe surprising to some people, but he did beat him on the Conan's wheel at the World Tour Finals, which I previously talked about. Um, and again, it was kind of a similar situation. It was right after the deadlift where Rag beat Hooper, meaning that he goes out after Hooper. So I think if Rag is able to go out after Hooper, he's able to set himself a target and, beat it there. Then I have Pablo here with 12 points, despite the fact that he goes out first. I think Pablo is just the best in the world at this event. If you look at the World Tour Finals, he did go out sort of first, and he didn't get first place on the Conan's wheel. But you look back to World's Strongest Man, which is a more recent performance, where he was in that same situation and he was able to get first place despite going out first. So I do think he's capable of that, and that's just what I kind of have predicted here for him in this event. Not to mention the fact that he's also the world record holder on this event. So moving on to the wrecking ball hold now. All right, so we have Pa with 1 point. You could probably argue that Pa has the worst grip out of this lineup. Um, Next up, we have Gavin Bilton. Um, he just doesn't really do, or I wouldn't say that. I would just say that you would expect these other guys to just do better than him here. There are some pretty decent grips in this competition. Kane Francis, he had a pretty decent performance on the wrecking ball hold at England's Strongest Man just recently. But looking at those times, I wonder if the wrecking ball was the same weight because he had gotten a similar time that Evan Singleton has gotten before. And you see Evan is all the way up here because, he has one of the best grips in strongman. So it just kind of makes me wonder if the wrecking ball was the same weight. But, again, if it was, then he had a great performance and he could, do much better than I'm predicting um, him to place here. So next up we have Tom Stoltman. This is notoriously probably Tom's worst event, but I do think he's able to pick up some points here and do some damage control. Um, Hopefully he proves me wrong. I've been wrong about Tom's grip before. Um, so we'll see what happens. Now, Tom's grip is actually pretty good on a frame carry, for example, as we saw at World's Strongest Man. But for whatever reason, there is a distinct difference between him doing a frame carry and him doing a hold like the Hercules hold, or for example, the Wrecking Ball hold. So, time will kind of tell what will happen there. Then I have Kordiaka here with 5 points. I think he'll be decent at this event, but I think that there will just be some more people that are able to beat him here. Rag here with 6 points. Again, decent grip, but I sort of have a reason why I think these other guys will be able to beat him. So, for example, Novikov, he actually did really good on the Wrecking Ball hold at World's Strongest Man 2 years ago. Um, and that kind of comes to that's a bit of an outlier because traditionally on a Hercules hold he'll drop a few points, but in the Wrecking Ball hold at World's Strongest Man he actually did pretty good when you compare him to all the other athletes at that competition. So I kind of feel like he has some sort of trick up his sleeve there, that'll help him get some points there. So then moving on to Hooper, he has a pretty good grip here, but the next four guys here I think are just sort of grip monsters. Um, Hoth, you know. He hasn't really had that much to show for on the international stage with all these big shows and stuff. But if you look at his track record on grip holds, he's never lost one. So I think that means something. And I do think he'll be placing in the top half at least. So, maybe Hooper will beat him, but I do think he's going to be pretty good here. He might even surprise. Um, then we start getting into the actual proven grip monsters. Eddie Williams, Evan, and Bibby have all won Hercules hold events at Giants Live. Um, so I think they're the top three to look out for here. I think Eddie Williams just comes a little bit short of Evan if Evan is in full shape. Also, Evan has a bit more experience on the wrecking ball hold, I believe. And then I do think that Evan just falls short of Iron Bibby on grip events or on grip hold events, sorry. Um, Only thing I will say, I wonder how the wrecking ball hold um will affect Bibby because Bibby is such a wide and humongous human being. I wonder if it'll be like kind of uncomfortable to hold the wrecking ball in the sort of apparatus they have for it. So if that's the case, you could see Bibby maybe drop a couple points and Evan take the win. But if you're just kind of going off of who can hold on to something the longest, I'd say that Bibby would sort of beat out anybody on this list. So now finishing off with the Atlas stones. Let's see here. In the bottom placed, I have Bibby. So you kind of see Bibby here with very varied performances. You have him with first place on the axle, last place on the Conans, first place on the grip hold, last place on stones. Um, and that's just kind of how he tends to perform on some of these events. He again, he's a very good strongman if you give him the right events, but you could also do the same thing if you give him the wrong events. He's gonna sort of struggle. Um, Anyways, moving on to Pa, I have him here with 2 points. I'm not going to do much explaining. This is just kind of judging on how their previous performances. I'm sure a lot of people can sort of come up with a similar list. I guess where it gets interesting is the top half of these guys. So, we have Kane Francis in three. We have Eddie Williams with 4 points, Pablo with 5 points, Hoth with 6 points. Now, Hoth did pretty good on the stones actually at World's Strongest Man. So, again, he could do better. The general theme with the stones is that anything can happen. So if you look at these top guys, you can literally, well, except for Tom Stoltman, you can literally mix and match any of these scores, put them in any order you want. Anything can happen. But this is just kind of what I'm expecting. Novikov with 7 points, Evan with eight, Rag with nine, Bilton with 10. He's actually very good on with Atlas stones and being fast with them if he is in shape. So we'll see what happens there. Hooper with 11. His stones are very good right now, and they've been improving, competition to competition. And then Tom with 12. No surprise there. Uh, it'd be a shocker if Tom didn't win the stones. Now, something I want to point out here before I reveal the final points, right? If you kind of look at Tom's, first four events, maybe it would actually be better if I reveal the points first. So let's go ahead and do this and sort them by first to last. This is kind of gonna reveal the winner, but whatever. I'm gonna first talk about Tom, right? So obviously Tom here is in second place. Let me reveal this too. Uh, yeah, so Tom here is in second place. But what I kind of wanted to hint at here was that if you kind of remove the Atlas stones and then you look at the placings going into the Atlas stones, Tom is actually in like fifth place. So you put in those Atlas stones, and all of a sudden he jumps up over a bunch of other people into that second place spot, which is just, I don't know, just a cool comeback that I noticed. And I think it's something that might happen at this show. It'll be interesting to see. Anyways, so yeah, we have the final points here. 12th place, we have Kane Francis. I'll admit that this is probably because I don't know much about him. Um, just since I don't know much about him, I do think that he will probably place better than what I have him here. Pa in 11th, Eddie Williams in 10th. Probably just not the best events for Eddie here. Bilton in ninth, Pablo in eighth. Again, Pablo is one of those athletes that are very event dependent. He could probably ask for some better events here. Bibby in, well, I'd say tied for sixth, but however you want to score it, he's tied for sixth and seventh place here with Tristan Hoth. Bibby with a very up and down performance according to my predictions, and then Hoth sort of consistent throughout the competition. Then we have Evan in fifth here, which is a bit surprising just because Evan is like always on the podium at Giants Live. We have Novikov here with 41 points in fourth place, just missing out on the podium. Same kind of goes for Novikov as Evan. Very surprising that he's not on the podium. But then you look at, third place with 42.5 points, Matthew Ragg. You can kind of see that third through fifth are extremely close, or at least according to my predictions. So I think these top five guys here are really who you're going to want to look out for this podium. But yeah, basically we have Rag here with 42.5 points, just missing out on second place to Tom Stoltman with 43 points. And then finally we have Hooper here with a first place finish with 50.5 points. I think this is a show that Hooper can and honestly should dominate in if he shows up in shape, which, he's probably in shape. He's had some pretty good training videos recently. So yeah, basically I think this is Hooper's show to lose. And then second through fifth can honestly go to any of these guys. If you look at these, how close these points are, just 39 to 43, that's a 4 point spread. Anything can really happen there, especially on the stones. I'd say maybe Tom is the safest to be on the podium, considering that he's 99% going to get maximum points on the stones. But then you're going to see a battle here between Rag, Novikov, and Evan for the podium, or at least that is my prediction. But yeah, that is basically all that there is to the video. Um, and yeah, thank you for watching.